James Caan, serial entrepreneur, has been in the recruitment industry for over 30 years, investing in various companies across different geographies and sectors. James's first business, Alexander Mann, sold in 2013 for 260 million. His second business venture, Humana International, grew to 140 offices across 30 countries. James, the former Dragon's Den star, has 3 million LinkedIn followers and was voted the most influential voice in 2017. In 2014, James launched Recruitment Entrepreneur, where he invests in recruitment companies across the globe. James was appointed CBE in 2015 for his charitable and entrepreneur services. James created the James Caan Foundation to help those who need support in education and entrepreneurship. James, thank you. Welcome to CEO Corner. So I'd like to start by asking, how have the last couple of years been for you? What type of business successes have you seen?
The last couple of years have been really interesting. Obviously started with the pandemic, which wasn't great. I think for most business people and entrepreneurs, the pandemic was an incredible experience. It's something you could never have anticipated. What I'm very pleased with is 2001 really bounced, and 2002 we made up for most of the losses of the pandemic. So I think the last couple of years actually have proven to be, from a business perspective, actually very good.
Good. Yeah, we found the same actually. We found a change in how we work, a different offering, new roles that have come live. So we've experienced something similar in Ireland as well. I guess maybe taking a step back and to your earlier years, interested in when was there a pivotal moment in your career that you knew, okay, I'm on the right road here, this is a good decision that I've made?
I've always been completely in belief of what I do. However, as you know, markets move up, move down, and your sense of enthusiasm, wanes as where the markets are. But generally, I've never really questioned that this is the right business for me, the right industry. I think that what I have found, like, even if you look at Amazon as a business, Jeff Bezos, had a vision to sell books online. That's not what they do today, but his vision was that the online market would explode, e-commerce would explode, and he's evolved with the market. So I think when I started out, I knew I wanted to be in recruitment, but my career has kind of navigated in different directions as markets evolve, business evolves. So I suppose what I've learned as an entrepreneur is if you want to maintain your level of success, you have to continuously reinvent yourself because the markets will continue to change. And I think whether you're in the motor industry, the insurance industry, the recruitment industry, if you take the last 25 years, we've seen complete transformations of the way our businesses work. And as a leader, as a CEO, if you don't keep up with the changes in your market, you're left behind, and the competition just roars ahead. So I think the key message for me has really been the recognition of recognizing that you have to reinvent in order to take full advantage. I mean, if you look at where we are today, we're entering 2023 and AI is the topic of the moment. What impact is AI going to have on our businesses? If you look at what the smartphone has done, it's transformed the way we work. They say AI will have the similar kind of impact. What is that going to do to our businesses? What challenges are we going to face? So already I'm starting to educate myself to see, what are the implications of that? So I think as leaders, as CEOs, we have to stay ahead of the game. We have to be continuously being aware of what is happening in our market and what changes could be either beneficial or a threat to what we do.
Yeah, we've embraced AI and it's transformed what we've done, especially during COVID. The facility to interview online, the number of tools that we've, I guess, embedded into the company has given us reach throughout the globe. I guess sticking with earlier years, do you have an influential person that has helped you, or has there been an influential person who's helped you reach your success today?
Right from the outset, the one person who I probably trusted the most, that I would always listen to, is my father. He had a real impact on me and the way that I think and what I do. And he was always my go-to person, in the event of things that I didn't get, things that I didn't understand, times when I thought, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? He would generally be my go-to person.
Good. Yeah, that's good. And I recently saw a photo of you. I think it was Facebook, and it was a picture of you side by side as you are now, and a picture of you perhaps maybe 10. A bit of a story behind it. Without being in a therapy session, what would you say to your 10-year-old self now?
The truth is, I wouldn't say anything different to how my life has panned out. I think there's been enormous periods of adversity, challenges, things that have gone wrong, and I wouldn't change any of that, because part of success is very much based around the failures. You learn so much through your failures, and if I was advising him, I would naturally be advising him to avoid those pitfalls. But the question is, how much impact did those pitfalls have on what I did as a consequence of that? So I feel that I look back on life and I have no regrets, including the things that didn't work out, including, recessions and, the financial crisis, etc. Because I think that's what makes you.
Yeah. I agree. It's just as you were talking there, a failure of mine came to mind. I remember years ago when I was doing my degree, I failed my accountancy exam, and I thought it was the end of the world. But what it did was I had to find a solution, find a way, go back and study, and subsequently I did a further, I think, 8 years of third level education. And I wouldn't change it now either. So I completely relate to that. Talking about money, what are your behaviours around money?
What does that mean?
Yeah, I know it's kind of a loose question. I guess some people are savers, some people, are very disciplined in budgeting, some people blow all of their money and say, actually, look, we only live once.
I'm in the spender category.
Okay.
I'm going to have to admit, you can put me in the spender category. Okay. I'm not a big saver.
Okay. Well, you must be somewhat. Well, you spend, but you get a good return. So how does a person go from making 5,000 a month to 10,000 a month to 100,000 a month? And how do we get over the complications of earning 7 figures as entrepreneurs?
It's easy, you just spend it. As long as you've got enough to spend it on, trust me, spending money is never going to be difficult. Earning money, of course, is much more challenging. And I think it just depends on what business you're in, what industry you're in. One of the biggest things that I've learned is we are our own worst enemies. If you want to be successful, sometimes the barrier of success is you. It's that lack of belief, it's that lack of conviction, it's that inability to manifest yourself into that successful position. And I think if you believe you can, you have a chance. But if you don't believe you can, you have no chance. It's like winning the lottery. You've got to buy the ticket first. No point dreaming about the lottery and never buying a ticket. So I think your starting position of breaking barriers is to start believing in yourself and see yourself earning 100,000, see yourself earning 7 figures. Because once you believe it, there is a path of getting there. The problem is most people don't believe it. Most people can't visualize. But if you can't visualize, if you can't believe, how will you ever even stand a chance? So, I'm constantly reaching for the next level, whatever that number may be. So if I go back to my early years, when I set up my first business, I was obsessed with how do I hit 1 million in sales? Because that was kind of the magic number. If you hit 1 million in sales, you've arrived. And we eventually hit our 1 million in sales. And I thought, fantastic. The next barrier is how do I make 1 million profit? Because I realized that turnover is vanity, but profit is sanity. Yes, you can turn over money, but what does it mean if you don't make any money? So the next thing was set myself a goal. I want to hit 1 million profit. And I had a path on how I would do that. Then I remember we hit $1 million profit, and I said to my accountant, so we should be able to pay a big dividend now. And he said, actually, no. I said, why not? He said, because we haven't got the cash. Just because you make a profit doesn't mean the cash is in the bank. Depends on the kind of business you're in, the working capital cycle, if you buy stock, or every business is different. So cash and profit are not mutually connected. So I said, okay, so my next objective is, I want to not only make $1 million profit, but I want $1 million in the bank. Let's go back to basics. Let's go back to reality. Cash is king. We run a business, we need to have the cash in the business. So I then set myself the next goal, which is to have, $1 million in the bank. So throughout my career, throughout my journey, I've set myself what I call baby steps along the way, things that you can identify with, things you can understand and things you can see and capture in your mind. Because once you've got it, you create a path of getting there. But I meet many, many people that talk about it, but they don't really believe it. So I think the step number one is setting yourself something that you believe in that is achievable.
Yeah, and I do understand that. I think sometimes people don't know how to get started as well, and what is that barrier? Where do I go? What is the first steps? And baby steps is appropriate. I guess for people in that situation that are thinking of an idea or want to become self-employed or are building confidence, what sort of risk assessment is involved in taking that first step?
I mean, the truth is, when you start a business, there are no guarantees. And it's the nature of entrepreneurship. The reason why entrepreneurship has such high rewards is because it has such high risks. There's a direct correlation between risk and reward. And when you cross over into that world of entrepreneurship, you're leaving behind that security blanket of a salary, etc. And there is no other answer to that. You can't have both. You can't have a fully secured environment with massive rewards. When you switch, I remember one of the biggest reasons people don't set up a business is the fear. How do I live? How do I earn? And what happens if it doesn't work out? That fear is what prevents most people from not doing it. But once you've overcome that fear and said, I know what I'm doing, I'm good at what I do, I can make this work, you will find a way of maintaining that lifestyle.
And have you been in a position where you have felt fear and have had to readjust and maybe look inward on how do I overcome this?
I started my business around 35 years ago, and I can honestly tell you I've had 35 years of fear. The fear never goes.
Okay,
it doesn't matter what level you're at, there is always that fear of failure because there are no guarantees. When we entered COVID, I honestly thought this was it, game over, because everything in front of me told me we've got no revenue, we have no customers, and all we have is overhead. Because I sat there and thought, who's going to recruit in the middle of a pandemic when everything is shut? And to sit there through a lens where you see no revenue coming in and a whole bunch of costs going out, that's game over. So, I genuinely had a sense of fear that says maybe this is the end of the road. And there's been, in the financial crisis, it was the same. In a recession, it's the same. When, I remember when LinkedIn first came out.
It's a threat.
I was like, that's it, we're over.
Yeah.
Why does anybody need us anymore? Because our clients can access the same pool of candidates as we can. So when I went to the first LinkedIn conference and they announced what they were going to do, there was a sense of fear that said technology effectively is going to replace us, but it didn't. So my view is that I think as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, you have to recognize fear because it's real. If you become too complacent, if you think you know it all, the day you think you've arrived, it's too late.
And I think, it is an important topic because I've seen fear actually stop people in their tracks. If somebody wants to, public speak, but the fear just overcomes them is a big one, is one that I see quite frequently. What are your maybe 3 non-negotiable behaviours in business?
I think first thing, you have to embrace fear. you can't run away from it because you'll never move on. So, you know, in that example of public speaking, when I first remember, I went on stage to give a talk about something and I froze. But it's like a horse. When you fall off, the first thing you need to do is get back on. So you've got to embrace it. And I think once you've embraced it, you can deal with it. So, you know, rule number one, I think, on fear is to embrace it. Recognize that failure is part of the journey of success. To be successful, I've never met an entrepreneur in my life who's never failed. So it's part of our journey. We have to embrace and understand it. And I think thirdly is that confidence, is that belief in yourself, and set yourself aspirational goals that you believe in, that you can then create a path of how to get there. But if you have no goal, if you have no plan, if you have no belief, what direction are you going in? So I think each year I look at where I'm going, look at what I want to achieve, understand it, believe it, and then create the path to getting there.
Yeah, it's good advice. When you work with your teams and companies, how important do you think understanding of human psychology and personality is in, I guess, having success in that role?
I think business is all about people. It is people who build success in a business, not products or services. And therefore, not understanding people, not having an awareness of emotions, behaviours, psychology. How do you drive people to be successful? So I think it's not important, I think it's critical. You know, understanding the needs of your people. You know, people go ups, they go down, they have great times, bad times, and knowing how to navigate through that, I think, is crucial. There are times where you have to be firm. There are times where you have to inspire. There are times when you have to motivate. You can't get that wrong. Because our success is entirely dependent on our people.
Yeah, I agree. Do you consider yourself to be a compassionate leader?
I think you have to have compassion because we're dealing with people, and people have emotions, people have issues, and if you can't understand that, you are going to struggle. And I think our industry is, you know, dominated by people with egos. You know, so I think understanding that and knowing how to deal with that, it's not an easy industry. I would say one of the greatest challenges that entrepreneurs, business people, CEOs face is dealing with human emotion. I think sometimes you can handle the business, you can handle the numbers, you can handle the market. Handling people is a skill in itself.
Yeah, I know. They need to teach it in school. Emotional intelligence. James, what part of your identity, be it personal or in business, are you most proud of?
I don't think I'm proud of anything really. I think I suppose because I'm never satisfied, you know, wherever I get to, I always feel there's more. And I think I'm in constant search of excellence. I don't ever think I've arrived. I don't ever believe that anything that I've done, I've completed, because there's always something else. You know, I don't think I've ever stood still. Even to this day, you know, one of the most common questions I get asked is, why are you still doing this? What on earth are you still working 18 hours a day, despite everything that you've done? It's because I'm in constant search, you know, for that next challenge, that next opportunity. And I don't think there's time to sit and become complacent.
Yeah, no, I understand completely and can relate to that. When working with CEOs, you know, you've a lot of experience in this. What do you see as a factor, or you've alluded to this earlier in one of your other answers, but what is holding CEOs back from truly reaching their full potential or continuing to reach potential?
I think everybody's different. Everybody has, you know, I've got about 40 CEOs in my portfolio, and I can't say to you that any one of them are the same. They're all extremely individual. They have different motivations, they have different objectives, They have different levels of success. You know, some are very happy at a certain level, some want to go that next step, and some want to conquer the world. They're not all the same, and it doesn't make one better than the other. They're all very individual, because remember, we all have these very deep personal objectives that mean something to us. Some of us are driven by family, some of us are driven by children, some of us are driven by money, some of us are driven by status. Yeah, everybody's different. So I don't think you can generalize and say they should be the same. I think it goes back to the earlier question, which is it's understanding your people, understanding their motivations, and as a CEO, what can you do to help facilitate their journey?
Yeah, great. And same for CEOs then to their teams, you know, a similar trickle down. Some practical advice for people listening, you know, whether the person is an entrepreneur or is working for an employer, starting from now, is there steps or is there an action or multiple actions a person can take to increase their earnings?
I think anyone who's working for an organization, the most effective way of increasing your earnings is to contribute towards the success of the business. Demonstrate your value, demonstrate how you move the needle, demonstrate where you can make an impact. If you have a business that recognizes demonstrable value, they will reward. But I think in most cases, it's not evidently clear. Whereas I find it difficult when somebody approaches me and demonstrates tangibly how they've contributed to the firm, and I can't recognize that.
Okay.
So I think the answer must be in make sure that you are demonstrating very clearly, you know, the value that you bring, the value that you provide, and how you've moved the needle.
Great. So before we finish, we have 3 fun questions that I like to ask all of my guests, if you wouldn't mind taking part. So the first one is, if you were stuck on a desert island, what 3 items would you bring and why?
I'd have to bring my smartphone, because my playlist is on there.
Makes sense.
You know, and if I'm going to be on a desert island, I want a desert island with some discs.
Yeah. And what else?
I'd have to have Deliveroo on a desert island.
To survive.
You know, because
no hunting knife?
I'm very passionate about my Indian food.
Okay, great.
So I'd need to know that I can get that delivered. And I'd need my hairdresser.
Okay. Okay, so you're looking good. Yeah, you're looking good. Yeah, you're well fed and you're looking good. Okay, and what was the last?
I'm dancing the night away.
Okay, yeah, you're having a great time. I want to go there. It sounds fun. What is the last book that you read, and would you recommend it?
I'm not a great reader.
I don't have time.
You know, I don't find that I really have that much time. I have 3 young children who dominate every spare moment that I have. I have a 2-year-old. Wow. And, you know, for me to sit with a book with my 2-year-old, that's a non-starter.
So it's a Peppa Pig is your last read. Do you recommend it? And the final one is, if you were hosting a dinner party, which 3 guests would you bring?
I'd like to have Elon Musk, actually. I think he would be a fascinating person, because I think the man's a genius in what he does. I'd love to have a Jeff Bezos, because I just think when he started out, you know, he had this ambition to create a bookstore online. With that as a vision to be what he's done today, I think it's phenomenal. And I'd probably love to hear Bill Gates' story on the foundation that he set up, because I think he's probably the world's #1 philanthropist.
Yeah.
And I feel the art of giving, the art of making a difference, that I find really fascinating, that he spends pretty much all his time today dealing with challenges of humanity. And I think as an entrepreneur, to have an opportunity to do that, I think is the coolest thing you could ever do.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.